Welcome. I'm Ellen Nicholas, sensuality consultant and sensual advocate for keeping our relations hot and our humanity real. Tonight's topic is oral sex. Now, not going to get into the details of it, although I will give some suggestions. And the first thing I want to say is that oral sex is one very distinct difference between humans and all other animals. All other animals have their, genitals to genitals, but humans know how to use their tongues and lips to create different kinds of sensations. So let's get our definitions right first. The difference between the two kinds of oral sex. The first one is cunnilingus. Cunnilingus is when one partner is stimulating another person's genitals, and that person would be the female getting the stimulation. So it's using the tongue to stimulate the clitoris and the labia and all the external areas of her genitals. Fellatio is the practice of where a young person or a person is actually filleting or going down on a penis. There's lots of different names for that, blowjob and going down and sucking dick. There's all kinds of names for it. Some of them are cute and some of them are just crude. But the bottom line is men tend to really enjoy that. And it says an awful lot about their relationship with a woman who is willing to do that for them. So I want to make one thing very, very clear about genital stimulation with the mouth. Genitals that have been washed, say showered, cleaned well, are actually cleaner than your mouth. So if you think that kissing is perfectly okay, but oral sex is dirty, you've got it backwards, because your mouth houses a whole lot more germs than clean genitals ever would. So I just kind of want to make that very, very clear. Oral sex has been through the gamut of prejudices throughout the years, but now more and more people are enjoying it. So I just want to kind of get it clear. Now, I feel like I should talk about it because most of the sexual education that people get today is through pornography, and they're not focusing on technique or anything else. They're just having her give him a blowjob and then using hands and saliva, et cetera. And yeah, that's fine. But there have been some times where the penis is shoved all the way down her throat. It's called deep throating. And quite honestly, it's not a very good sexual technique. The mouth itself has most of its action at the tongue and at the lips. And that's where most of the sucking action takes place, by the tongue and the lips. So going down the throat, there's no sucking action in the throat. And pushing a penis into someone's throat can actually be very uncomfortable, can cause them to gag and choke. And if your point is to be pleasured and to enjoy what they're doing, it shouldn't be getting off on somebody else, suffering to give you pleasure. So oral sex is also called mouth music. And it's kind of funny because it's when you're having fellatio, when you're making doing that, you can actually use the penis as if it's a flute of some kind. And if you hum around the penis while you're orally filleting that person, the vibration from your mouth around the very sensitive tissue of the penis is an exquisite sensation. So it's also called mouth music. No matter what kind of oral sex you're having, whether it's cunnilingus or fellatio, it's important to use lots of lubrication. Your mouth might be dry from maybe narcotics or some kind of medication that you're taking. Maybe you've smoked pot and your mouth is just dry as hell. It's a good idea to have some kind of lubrication handy. And flavored lubrication to me is the best, but everybody to each his own. There's also heated flavored lubrication. Very, very nice. Now, remember that just like the penis doesn't like to be grabbed and stroked violently, the clitoris also needs to be approached very, very slowly. And in fact, during cunnilingus, it's a good idea to stimulate the clitoris last, orally or any other way. So there's a couple of techniques that I like to just tell you about. One of them is humming, and that's the one where you're actually vibrating your lips around the genitals. And the other one is flicking, where you take the tongue and you flick it very quickly on the corona of the penis or on the clitoris itself. There's a technique called the butterfly flick, which is flicking the tongue very quickly over the penis or flicking the tongue very quickly over the clitoris. It should not be confused with a butterfly kiss, which is actually stimulating genitals using eyelashes. So the person would have to be pretty excited already, and then to put the eyelashes very, very close to the head and to stimulate them by fluttering the eyelashes. It's very, very exciting. It's better for the man to receive something like this than to try to use his eyelashes to stimulate her clitoris. It just doesn't work as well unless he has some seriously long eyelashes, and it's not usually the case. I suggest that if you want to practice orally fellating, that you get yourself an ice cream cone and that you twirl your tongue around, take your mouth on top of it, twirl some more, work the cone. And as you are working the cone, you're also practicing a wonderful technique for taking your time and enjoying the deliciousness of your lover. I think if you want your lover to be always delicious, I mean, initially, naked is fine, but if you're orally filleting the same person for years, sometimes adding a little topping is a great idea. One of the oldest toppings out there is emotion lotion, but since emotion lotion, there are so many different kinds of toppings out there. If you visit my website in the Your Pleasure shop, you'll see some of them, but it's really nice. It's like adding a little topping to the main meal rather than just have the same thing all the time. Add a little, salt, pepper, whatever to it. Not truly salt, pepper, just spices to the act. And when it comes to satisfying her, it is great that the clitoris is going to be stimulated in the labia majora, and the labia minora. But there's a phenomenal toy out there, and it's called the Satisfier Pro. This has a silicone ring over here. It's incredibly soft, and you push the button, and the light comes on. You can push it again. It goes a little more intense. Then you can increase the intensity of this, and this gets the clitoris gets put right in there, and it's like a serious sucking action. And if you really want to make it even more intense, to do this or to use this in the tub where there's waves of water around is an excellent idea. But if it's being used by one lover to another, then just put lubrication on it, put the clitoris in there, just turn it on low, and it will do a lovely and delightful action. It comes with a charger that you can just kind of charge in a USB port, and it's called the Satisfier Pro. It really is a phenomenal toy, and it's been around for quite a long time. So I hope you have enjoyed this little talk about oral sex. Just remember, genitals that are clean are a pleasure. And if you happen to have the right chemistry with the person that you are orally pleasing, then their smell, their scent, their taste should all be absolutely delightful. Of course, sometimes the scent and the taste might be off. If a woman smokes cigarettes, for instance, it absolutely taints the flavor of her vaginal fluid, so she's not as tasty as she could be. And the same thing goes with guys. If they smoke cigarettes, they're putting all kinds of toxins in their body, which gets into their bloodstream, which gets into their semen, gets into their seminal fluid, and they're not going to be as tasty, and they're not going to smell as good either. So it's a good reason to give up those cigarettes so that you will be delicious for many, many years to come. I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was my pleasure for your pleasure. Join me next week when we're talking about anal sex, the pros, cons, and anything that you might need to know so that it can be fun the first time and every time. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a phenomenal night. And don't forget to do your Kegels. Bye for now.